Yep.
right?
Yep.
And so that, I mean, so you got to read, right?
Yeah.
And my wife,
Yeah.
God bless her, she's like, baby, you need to read more. And I'm like, look, I read a lot. I was an F-15 fighter pilot, senior executive in the Department of Defense. I'm an engineer. I read a lot. I write a lot. I speak a lot. She goes, no, you need to read not technical things, not work things. You need to read to educate yourself. Read for you. And she taught me that here in my 40s. My wife taught me to read for me. And that freed my mind again, because as Carter G. Woodson said it, right? The father of Black history,
Yeah.
in his
Creator
book,
of Black History Month. Yeah.
The Miseducation of the Negroes, the name of his book.
Yeah.
That's the thing. We have not been educated for ourselves. We've been educated for them and their system. We haven't been educated for ourselves, and we haven't learned to educate ourselves. And they won't educate us. And that's what the whole critical race theory fight is about. Critical race theory is a legal construct. It's not being taught in schools. It's a legal construct. But those in power in this country, don't want real history to be taught, because then we understand our value, and we understand what's really been done to us and what is still being done to us. And so that is another way to keep our minds enslaved.
Definitely. You couldn't have said it best, because, James, when I seen the critical race theory argument, at first I was like, wait a minute, is this even real? That I hear people creating a opposition to just learning real history. There's other things you can oppose to that type of thing. But the fact you're just opposing, you don't want a white kid to feel like they're at fault for it. This is this is crazy, man. Everybody should know real history. We're not pointing the finger at anybody, but the history is the history. You can't change what's actually happened, right?
Well, you would think so, but you can change how people remember it. You can. That's the saying. History is written by the victors.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's not sleep on this. And so you can change how people remember it and how they contextualize it, and then what they do based on that knowledge. There's a wonderful book called *Sapiens*. It's by Yuval Harari. I don't know if I have a hard copy. I do have a hard copy up here. So I do a lot of my reading through my ears. So get an Audible account. It's fantastic. This book, *Sapiens*, by Yuval Harari, Jewish guy, beautiful book. I think it was published in the 90s or so. It's been reprinted. Let me see when the original publication date was on this. It's been out for a minute, but it's been republished. New York Times #1 bestseller. It was originally published in 2015 is the last reprint. Originally published in 2014. Okay, so it's 8 years out. First published in Hebrew in Israel in 2011. So it's 11 years out. And then it was converted, translated to English and published again and again. *Sapiens*. This book says so much. It is a wonderful read. It's in Audible, so you can just get it and listen to it on your commute for your listeners out there. And that's how I do a lot of my reading, especially in DC, commute around here. You're going to be in the car for a minute, so you can get a lot of reading in through your ears. And it basically talks about the fact that if you want to move any more than 140 people, okay, if you as an individual want any more than 140 people to move in any one direction for any reason, you essentially need to give them, and they need to have a common belief system, because after you get over 140, you can't have enough organic one-to-one relationships with each of those people as an individual yourself in order to know what they're going to do, know how they're thinking, and be close enough to them to really know how they're going to move. Okay. So what you have to give them is a common belief system, so that the belief system tells them how to move. And then you can then move 280 people or 500 people or 5 million people or 50 million people or 5 billion people. You can move as many people as you need in each different direction if they have a shared common belief system, or what the book calls a mythology. Okay. And it's something that it's a construct that humans create, and humans are unique in this way. Other animals don't do this. But it's a construct that can be passed down, can be taught, learned, and remembered, can be enforced, reinforced, or can be broken down, dismantled, and forgotten, and treated like it doesn't even exist, right? But you have to control that construct. You have to control that mythology. In America, a large mythology that controls us is white supremacy. right? It's the belief that white people are superior. That's not true. But if you can reinforce that through policy and law and different states' laws, and you can keep it in the schools, the mindset going, if you can break down the things that break down that lie, then you can keep that lie in power. And if that lie stays in power, that mythology stays in place, then that belief system, then people continue to react according to that belief system, which is also what Carter G. Woodson said about miseducation of the Negro is, as long as we're miseducated and we're bought into that other belief system, we'll keep operating under it, which is that we're subjugated to it, and that we're the lower class of it. And he says you won't have to tell a black man to go into the back door. He will go to the back door himself. And if he doesn't find the back door, he will create one for himself so that he can enter where he knows his place is.
Yeah. That's
what Carter G. Woodson said about the mind of the black man under this belief system, under this mythology that this book breaks down. It's beautiful. And so when you think about Trumpism is a mythology, and people buy into it to the order of 80 million people, but it's based on the mythology of white supremacy, right? And that's, so that's what it's all about, is belief systems. And so, yeah, if you control the belief system, you control the power and you control the people. And so the fight against critical race theory is a fight to control the belief system that we're all ascribed to, and that our children and our, as we matriculate into adulthood, you got to keep that belief system of white supremacy and whiteness at the top of the social hierarchy and strata in place and in power.
Definitely. That's wow. Of course, I'm aware of these things, but that was put brilliantly. They are doing their best to keep it alive through actions. Now they're creating policies and doing things, but it's definitely a myth. Now, what I wanted to touch on too, because I appreciate everything you're doing for our community, brother. And in a second here, we're going to get to the Angel Tech app, how it works and everything about it, everybody. But I knew this brother had some information, and I want my people to understand who we are and where we come from and how a lot of these things start. So talk to me about your experience in the military, like being, you said an F-15 fighter pilot or something like that. Talk to me about that experience. Like how did that help you as a person?
Oh, wow. I always wanted to fly because my dad was in the Air Force, and so I grew up around airplanes. Yeah. So I always wanted to be in the sky. The saying is to have air under your butt, just to be aloft. I've always wanted to do that. And when I went to the Air Force Academy, I had the privilege of learning to fly, starting with gliders. And so I learned to fly airplanes without engines first. And that teaches you, which is what the Wright brothers did. They learned how to fly gliders before they put an engine on it. And it makes you a better pilot. When they would go up to Kill Devil Hills in North Carolina there, near Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. I mean, they were from Dayton, Ohio, right? The Wright brothers, they were from Ohio. And they built their flying machines and contraptions in the Ohio bicycle shop. And then they would truck over to North Carolina because it had the best combination of a sea breeze coming off the coast there, the East Coast, the North Carolina coast. And it had the best combination of soft landing areas, sand. Kill Devil Hills was a big sand dune, and it had big hills. And it was pretty unpopulated. It's pretty isolated. So all those combinations meant that's where we're going to go fly our gliders and learn how to fly. And that's where man first took flight, powered flight, that is. But others like Otto Lilienthal and others, they've been gliding before the Wright brothers ever started gliding. You just can't do it very long because you got to jump off a cliff, right? So I learned to fly gliders first and manage your energy and learn how to fly, to read the sky and manage wind currents and thermals and things like that, and different types of lift mechanism to stay aloft. Before I learned how to fly powered aircraft, and that was a great education because it teaches you, resilience. It teaches you how to read your environment better and look to signs in the sky and in society and see how the winds are moving and what's really happening, and know how to flow better, I believe. Know when to land and when you need to land, or when you need to land right now. And so then when you start flying with powered flight, then you're just a better pilot because you have all these bird-like instincts already kind of baked into you. And then I got to fly, different propeller-driven aircraft and different, jet turbine aircraft, and then ultimately the F-15, which is God's jet because it's undefeated in combat. Over 100 victories, no losses, 102, I think. Ever in aero combat. It's the most successful fighter airplane in the history of mankind. I mean, it is a beast. That bad boy is something else. It is amazing. I can talk to you all day about that plane alone. But what you get from flying fighters is you get a level of aggression that you need. You get a level of fight that you need. You get a level of confidence that you need. You get a level of smarts. You have to be intelligent to fight those planes. Those things are extremely complicated machines. And just to operate one, let alone deploy one and make it, fight with one and fight another airplane in the sky, and learn, fluid maneuvering and how to maneuver your airplane through the sky so that you end up behind someone in their control zone and you can stay there and punish them and kill them and not be killed by them. That's a whole other type of fighting. They call it dog fighting because it looks like two dogs in a fight. It's very violent. It's very fast. It's very close in. It's also akin to a knife fight in a phone booth, people say. So that's a whole other edginess that you get from doing that occupation. And that is very helpful in business.
I was just going to say, I'm sure, just like a person who's an athlete or any intense environment where you have to use your instincts and do certain things, I'm sure if the person does everything correctly, you can translate that into business. You can translate that into your regular life. So, wow, that's amazing. A lot of us will never fly a plane. You know what I mean? So just to hear about how that feels, and no cars, we're used to driving in congested areas, but just being up there, I'm sure is great. Now, something else I want to bring up just really quickly. So your experience, it sounds like it was positive, and it helped you. And again, being there 30 years, everything you're doing now, I applaud you, brother. For our young people, do you, I'm sure you consider the military as like a viable option, right? Like for a young person who, graduating high school or whatever, if done correctly, you can embark on that career and get things out of it. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a great place to get all kinds of world-class training, education to serve your country, the great benefits. The VA, Veterans Administration, home ownership was made affordable, and for African Americans in particular, but veterans. The way to wealth accumulation on average in this country is home ownership, right?
Yep.
And so through the VA benefits of being in the military, the VA will essentially like co-sign or allow you to get a loan without putting any money down.